I'd like to say hello and thank you to everybody joining the One Ohio Recovery Foundation Board of Directors November meeting. Grab our seats here. I'm going to ask Lori for a roll call.
Bruce,
Here.
Director Amen. Here. Director Whiston.
Here.
Director Hendrew. Director Old. Director Mason.
Here.
Director Mayer. Here. Director St. John.
Here.
Director Worsbicky. Here. Director Dodge.
Here.
Director Dreehouse. Here. Director Hohato.
Here.
Director Tyler Lee. Director Mattia.
Here.
Director Piccirilli. Director Greta Johnson.
Here.
Director Silac.
Here.
Director Gregoire.
Here.
Director Kidd.
I just promoted him.
Director Lee.
Here.
Director White. Director Radcliffe. Director Royson.
Here.
Director Baker. Director Claymire. Director Terry Johnson.
Here.
Director Phil Plummer.
Here.
Director Kidd.
I show we have a quorum. Very good.
Lori, this is Larry Kidd. I don't know if you got me attended or not, but I'm here.
All right, but thank you. So today, before we get into our agenda, I'd like to take a moment to recognize that one of our board members, Ron Luce from Region 10, has informed us he's stepping down from the board. We do appreciate the time that Ron has spent with us, and we of course wish him the best on all of his endeavors. I'd like to also welcome any guests on the line here. I don't know that we have any in the audience with us. Again, thank you for joining us both virtually and in person. And even though we can't hear your comments to the guest, if you email us at info@oneohiofoundation.com, again, that's .com, and we'll try to get with you. We have the agenda approval. Our first item order of business is, of course, to approve the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda in a second, barring any edits?
Motion approved.
Mattia and second by Tom. We'll just do that by voice vote. All those in favor of the agenda say aye.
Aye.
And the motion carries. Next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes. It was in our packet and online. And hearing any discussion or edits, please let me know if there are. Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion to approve the October. Remember, there are two sets of board meetings, the October minutes
So moved, Mayor.
by Greta Mayer,
Second, Worsbicky.
second by Jeanette. Any discussion on the motion to approve the minutes? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the motion carries. If you note, we have moved the agenda around a little bit, executive session being at the top. So if you'll note that we're trying to accommodate some schedules. We do anticipate this going maybe 25 minutes. And so if I can have a motion to go into executive session for the purposes of discussing contracts
So moved.
by, who was that, Ted? Oh, Michael Rosen made the motion, and a second by Tom Gregoire. We will have a roll call on that motion.
Director Bruce. Director
Yes.
Amen. Director Whiston.
Yes.
Director Hendrew. Director Mason.
Yes.
Director Mayer. Yes. Director St. John.
Yes.
Director Worsbicky.
Yes.
Director Dodge.
Yes.
Director Dreehouse.
Yes.
Director Hohato.
Yes.
Director Mattia.
Yes.
Director Piccirilli.
Yes.
Director Greta Johnson,
Yes.
Director Silac,
Yes.
Director Gregoire,
Yes.
Director Kidd,
Yes.
Director Lee,
Yes.
Director Radcliffe, Director Royson,
Yes.
Director Terry Johnson,
Yes.
Director Plummer.
Yes.
And the motion carries. Thank you very much. So at this point, we will go into executive session. All right, I'd like to reconvene, I'll call it the general session, the open session of the One Ohio November meeting. We are logged on with the people online.
Yes.
Very good. Then I'd like to have a motion to approve the 14 grants recommended by the Grants Oversight Committee for a amount of $2,188,502.87.
So moved.
By Jeanette, seconded by Dwayne
Picturelli.
Picciarelli. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Opposed?
I'm gonna abstain on Region 3.
Let the record note. Thank you.
Approve the others.
Yeah, I'm gonna abstain because I'm on the board at Ohio Recovery Housing.
Okay. So the notation is two of the members abstain on those ones affecting their region. Thank you. So the motion carries. Next item then is to allow motion to allow One Ohio staff to seek grants and or funding for potential community partners to align with the One Ohio mission and vision.
So moved. Mayor.
Motion by Greta,
Second. Hello.
second by Keith O'Haddle.
Yeah.
Got it, see? Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the motion carries. Next item is our mission moment and our guest presentation. It's a very special part of any of our general sessions, and I'd like to turn it over to Sarah at this point.
Well, everyone. Sarah Anstein, Director of Partnership and Outreach here at the Foundation. I'm so excited to do our mission moment and brag about our fabulous expert panel. Seeing if you want to go to the next slide for me, because I messed up the clicker in between bouncing back and forth. So some of y'all may remember that back in December, almost a year ago, we approved an updated expert panel policy, and we voted to appoint 4 people to our expert panel. Since that time, we have gotten to work. The expert panel had their orientation in January early of this year. And then in mid-February, we started meeting twice a month to build out their process for how they were going to review grants to assess for evidence basis, alignment with abatement strategies. And then beginning in August, we began again, continuing with meeting twice a month, reviewing the grants and discussing. This group reviewed about 100 applications each. There are 7 of them on there. And sometimes they had a super quick turnaround because the regions were getting them going on a fast pace, and we needed time to see their feedback and let the full group review and discuss on some of them. So all that to say, this is an incredibly committed group. Our expert panel is who volunteered their time to support us in our inaugural grant cycle. They are committed, they are passionate, they are deeply knowledgeable about a number of areas related to the grants that we reviewed. And I can say that what they didn't know, they sought it out. I know for a fact that they spent hours looking at the literature themselves, doing literature reviews, reading studies, going to databases to make sure the things that we fund are supported by evidence. So I've had a huge honor of working with them and learning so much from them over this year. And we wanted to take a chance today. And Andy, if you want to click the next slide, we have 3 of them with us in the room. And I think we may have a couple joining us virtually, but we wanted to just take today as we're kind of getting through all of our grants to honor and recognize them and all of the incredible contributions that they made to the foundation. So what we're going to do is have our chair and vice chair and Alicia kind of come over. We've got a little award we want to present you with just in recognition. So I'll call y'all up, and if you can stand over here so we can take a photo of you, we would really appreciate it. So,
And they're volunteers, right?
these are all volunteers, our expert panel. So Deb Flores, we'll have you come on up. It's your first, Deb. Thank you. Okay, and then stay up there, Deb. We'll do a group photo at the end. Next up, we have Lavelle Custer. Thank you, Lavelle. Next, we have Dr. Kim Sperber. Thank you, Kim. We can do a quick group photo.
Group,
Yeah. You wanna come?
we're gonna do whatever you tell us to do.
I just want the logo. I think
You
Connie
need
would.
Sarah in the photo. too.
Yes, Sarah,
We do
you,
need Sarah.
yes,
She
you
did.
do.
She kept us coordinated.
She keeps all of us coordinated.
Am I short?
Yeah,
Why am
that's
I
it.
the only one over here?
Oh, man.
All right.
Yes,
Everybody,
that
good
was
with
good.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone.
Do we send the rest COD?
And there are a couple more folks that couldn't join us in person today. I just want to give them a shout out. We have Dr. John Sprague, who also served on our expert panel, Stephanie Robinson, Dr. Zelie Sloboda, and then Dr. Christine Wilder also served on our expert panel all year. They just couldn't be with us today. So we'll give them a round of applause.
Thank you very much again, Sarah, and thank you again to our expert panel. With that, I'd like to turn it over to our executive director for her report.
Yes. Thank you guys for everything. I think that a word of thanks, not only to the expert panel who had no idea, I think all together had no idea what we were getting into, but we got through it. And we're better for it. And I really appreciate the work that you all have done as well as our board. Again, we spent a lot of time as a board and our region board members. I can't help but say that today with our last full meeting of the year. We wanted to just talk through a number of things and take you a little bit down memory lane, but also take you through what we've learned from this year as we look to 2025. And so I will just jump right in and go to that next slide. You all offered us a very important mission this year, and really it starts with saving lives, but it's so much more than that. And we are excited to dive into this work and have been excited to do this work this year. So we'll spend a little bit of time talking through this from a number of perspectives. So that next slide, and I don't know if I can move this forward. So for this thank you. This year, you guys, we set out, and I can't help but reflect because it's been a year for me as well in this position. You guys told us that we needed to be a collaborative funder and partner, and our priority was to get at the time the dollars out to the communities, and we've done that. And we'll talk more about that in a second. But we also need to establish ourselves as a trusted and credible organization. We were coming off of some rocky times. I won't rehash that, but we really focused on that for 2024. And I want to talk a little bit about what that looked like, what we're learning from that, and then go to 2025 here in a moment.
There you go.
Without Sarah, I don't know. For fun, I wanted to take us back. If you remember, and for our grants committee who remembers this slide, we started back in October of 2023. It was one of my first meetings with you all, and we said we have a path forward. I know it looks like a lot of work, but here are some of the status update indicators that we would use. And we said, here's the system we would show you guys the progress of the work. And at that meeting, I think we all were like, what? We only had 3 of the things that we thought we needed to move forward with our grant rounds. And I'm really proud to say that here we are in November of this year, really with a lot of check marks, a lot of work accomplished. I think, you know, I couldn't go without saying thank you to Sarah and Laura and Andy and Lori and Jim. We accomplished so much with a very small team and the support of a number of folks in this room today. So really, it was a reflective moment for Sarah and I, and I'm sure Laura is so proud to see this with so many check marks because it reflects the work that has been done. But when we thought about this, we've been thinking about our work in a number of different ways, and we really understand that all of us from where we sit are focused on impacting Ohioans. And so our staff team, through you guys' leadership, will be focused on that. You all are focused on that. Our region volunteers who aren't here with us in the room, but here with us in spirit and everything that we do and the decisions that they're making at the local level to really impact what's needed in the communities. And now we're adding over 200 organizations as our One Ohio grantees, and they are going to be important partners with us moving forward. And we don't want to forget that voice. And so we'll continue to talk about them as we move forward. But I think it's important to know what the grantees and what the regions have been saying as they close out the year. So we want to spend a little time talking about the grantees and the volunteers' perspectives. We've surveyed them. We've looked at the applications that they've submitted. We want to give you some themes that come from that. We also have the survey that you all are working on right now. I think we have 16 of you have completed the survey. We'll follow up after this. We really want to get everybody's feedback on the survey for you all as a board as well. And we want to bring that to a future meeting. So with that, we're going to jump right into what we learned about all of the grant applications that we received. We still have much work to do, but you all remember these slides. 1,400 applications, more than that, a little more than 1,400, 777 organizations have applied for a varying degree of time from a number of different institutions. But we wanted to provide a little bit deeper of a view in partnership with Mighty Crow and JG Research evaluation team that we think will really help us understand what are our communities asking for? What are these community who are they? What were they asking for? What types of things did they ask for? That was really important to us because I think it's telling of what the community needs were as a whole. You all remember we kept the RFP as broad as we could, right? We said, tell us what you need and we'll respond to that at the region level. And I think it's important for us to understand this. One quick disclaimer before I jump into the slides is these are preliminary results. This group, as you can imagine, is reading every application nearly. And we've gotten most of the way through. We think we're confident that this is where this will land because we've gotten so many applications reviewed, but they're going to spend the next 2 months finalizing some of this data as well. So who was it? Who applied to us? We talked about nonprofit, for-profit, and government entities. But what we realized is when you kind of break that out and look closer at these groups, we saw that the most and the majority of these were community-based organizations. I will spend some time, and I don't know, Sarah, if you can pull up, I can't see the notes underneath the slide, what the differences are between some of these organizations, because I think it's important. But these are typically our community nonprofits. Next, we have our recovery care organizations who are focused on primarily recovery supports. Our behavioral healthcare provider, medical services, and so forth. And so I thought it would just be interesting for you all to understand who showed up in our grant round as we think about what we want to do moving forward. What they asked for is a number of different things, and it's probably small letters on the screen there, but there's some themes in this. And so when you look at the total of the applications, the majority of folks wanted to see us support recovery support initiatives, whether it was recovery housing, helping people recover in the community. These things are not typically funded by Medicaid, not really supported in other areas. And so it was clear that that was a winner for what people wanted from us, or what these organizations wanted from us. followed then by prevention. They talked a lot, and Sarah's gonna talk some more about this, but they talked about public education and the need for training and the need to get ahead of the next generation so that we don't see this happening again in the future. And at least, you know, bringing those prevalence numbers down. And then finally, they talked about treatment and healthcare services, really looking at integrated healthcare, really looking at innovative ways to do and provide services to meet people where they are. We also know that the majority of these applications had a personnel component. They want to hire new people. There is a workforce shortage, so we're gonna see how this plays out. I think this is gonna be fascinating, but 68% of the applications that came to us wanted to bring more people in to do the services that they provide. And then there's some other topics there. But of those jobs that they wanted to provide, the majority of them were for peer support. A good number of them were for peer support. And so we wanted to dive a little deeper into that. Many wanted to have that adult peer support. Some are thinking about family and youth support as well. And they wanted to provide this peer support in a number of different arenas. And we're really trying to spend some time to figure some of this out because we know peer support is supported by Medicaid. We understand the places of service that Medicaid can pay for. We kind of want to keep thinking on where people want to place peer supporters. And perhaps these applications are places that aren't covered by a place of service, but we still have a lot to learn about what people wanted as it relates to peer support. So we will likely be a strong advocate for peer support, really talking with the state around these initiatives and wanting to be a part of the conversations to drive peer support forward. The other area that showed up a lot in our applications were recovery housing. And I thought this stat was so important. Across all the applications, 2,395 beds, if you wanted to kind of look at how many people served, would be created if all of our applications were funded that were focused on this issue. And then we had 18 applications that didn't even mention how many beds they would create as well. And so there's a need for recovery support. I know we have a fellow Ohio Recovery Housing team member here. They know that this is a need across the state, and that showed up big time in our applications. And we'll talk a little bit about.
And Gretchen can tell you that the gap analysis for recovery housing, the need is only met by 31%. So this is a huge gap filler right here, what's just happening.
Huge, huge resource for the state. So as we think about next steps, we're going to finalize this data set and kind of continue to examine the patterns and what folks had asked for. And then we're going to compare that data set to what we provided. What did they ask for and what did we fund? And how far off were we? I think we were right on target. I think that what you'll see and hear from us is that we were funded primarily recovery supports and prevention. We've met that community need and we'll kind of dig deeper into that. And then finally, we'll start to analyze the grants awarded in those themes and figure out those partnerships like we just talked about. Ohio Recovery Housing, peer support. You know, maybe there's some other cohorts that we need to develop. I think there will be a number of hospitals that will be funded through our funding. How can we work with them to understand sustainability through other means and things of that nature? So we're really looking for providing training, technical assistance, and partnership with our grantees and maybe other corresponding associations and groups that align with our mission. So we're really excited about that. All right. And next I'll give it to Sarah to talk about the region's feedback to us.
Yes, okay, and Alicia and Lori, give me the hook if I'm talking too long. Hold up the 1 minute sign. Okay, so I'm excited to get to brag on our regions. We did a survey as they were finishing up their grant review. They were then sent a survey to capture all of their enthusiasm right as they finished. We received responses from, here we go, 96 of our 300 some regional board members. We got responses from all 19 regions. So I think this was a pretty good sample. To brag, 72% of respondents said they were very satisfied or satisfied with the grant review process. So I think for all of us doing this for the first time, that was pretty good. And 90% of them said they plan to participate again. So we've got some good retention there at the regional boards. When we asked them about reviewing applications in the grant portal, this was new to all of us using Akoya Go. We asked them about, how easy was it to use? And 87% said it was very easy, or, neither difficult or easy. So again, thought that was really good. We are doing debrief calls with all of the regions to get additional feedback. And in the survey, we did have some open text questions where they could give us even more suggestions and feedback for improvement. So we have compiled all of that and we'll be working through that feedback. This was a time-intensive process. I know our expert panel can speak to that. I know the team that was coding all of our applications can speak to that. Our regional grant reviewers spent a lot of time reviewing these grants. 80% of folks spent between 11 to 45 minutes on each application. And one of our regions had 164. I mean, I had one regional board member say he spent about 40 hours reviewing all of the grant applications. So this was a big lift. So we asked our regions early on when we were setting up the RFP if they had funding priorities that they wanted to establish. And so this is kind of a tally across all 19 regions of the funding priorities. And you're going to start to see some themes. The most selected funding priority was recovery supports, followed by prevention. This should look familiar. Of all the applications that we received, all 1,400 plus, what were the abatement strategies, right? Abatement strategies were the funding priorities. A lot of recovery, a lot of prevention, followed by treatment. And then when we look at what was recommended by the regions, a lot of recovery, a lot of prevention. So then in the survey, I asked regions, what should we focus on in the future? What funding priorities? And there's some very clear themes that continue. Recovery, prevention, treatment, and new, this time, services for impacted children and families. I think that's a great spot for us moving forward, and our regions thought this was an area that we should prioritize moving forward. So there's some clear trends, some clear areas where the regions want to focus on it, the organizations across the state want to see funding there, and then we're actually recommending those projects and funding them. So in the survey, I asked, we've had this big, wide, let me put down. We had this big, wide open RFP. What could we do in the future? What would you want to see? I gave them a few different options. And the top one was a targeted grant cycle focused on a specific initiative. We could target it based on abatement strategy, right? Go more broad, like recovery supports, or get a little more specific within that, say recovery housing, peer support. So 58% of them said they were interested in a targeted initiative, followed by a funding round geared towards small nonprofits. And we'll come back to you in the new year. We have a lot of great data about some of these smaller nonprofits and the budgets and kind of the sizes of some of the organizations that applied.
I'll just say in this, because I heard a lot of this too with some of the follow-up conversations, it was difficult for regions to review a housing project compared to a prevention project, compared to a treatment project, it was kind of overwhelming to see all of that at once. And so we heard that over and over. So I'm not surprised that they want to see some more focused, so they can compare apples to apples with some of the applications. And then with the small nonprofits, I think that there are a lot of groups that are doing so many good things that maybe don't have a grant writer and maybe don't have some of that sophistication that the larger groups do. I am very proud that still with that though, many of the regions still funded the small nonprofits, but it definitely was a conversation. So I just want to point those out.
And then I asked what information or resources we could provide to the regions to support them in their next regional grant review process. And overwhelmingly, they said they want data and information specific to their region. They want to be planful. They want to make data-driven decisions and funding recommendations. We had another option that, said other, okay, well, tell us what other is. They want to know what worked well in other regions. I've got a solution for how we might do that. And then they also want to know their grantee outcomes reports. They want to know, because the regions did this with us for the first time too. They want to know, how did we do recommending these projects and picking funding priorities? We want to see how this went and how folks are performing to inform what we do moving forward. So I thought that was pretty insightful from them. So they just gave me some clear direction on what they want me, and I'd be remiss if I didn't give a shout out to Andy, who helps me support all the regions. So they just gave us some clear next steps of things they would like to see and starting to put together how we might be able to do that. And then we asked, think even bigger. What could the foundation do to support Ohio's behavioral health system? And I'm not surprised by these because I think they tie into the fact that they want more data and information. But these were the top 4 most important activities they thought we should prioritize. Research and evaluation, identifying what works, what is the evidence, how do we improve outcomes, a needs assessment, knowing the needs, the strengths, the trends, disparities that exist in their communities, planning, setting funding priorities, strategic initiatives, connecting dots, closing gaps, and then lastly, communications. How do we educate the public and counter stigma? So I think we're seeing just a lot of themes continue, kind of no matter who we're talking to, the data's kind of starting to say some similar things, which is great. So next steps for me and Andy and the regions, we are doing post-grant review debrief meetings with all 19 regions. We're taking a lot of the feedback we're getting from those and from the survey, those open text responses. And we're going to work on an updated toolkit because the regions want to learn from each other what were best practices. And I think we've got some that have been emerging. So we're going to start to put pen to paper and get some of that updated in partnership with some of our local government associations, just like the last toolkit that we had. So we're starting to work on that, and regions are excited, and they're telling us what they need and what they want some more clarity and guidance on. A lot of regions are going to be doing reorganizing meeting, that's their term, in Q1. So again, taking feedback from the debrief meetings, what changes do we need to want to make to continue to make this process even better going forward. And so we'll be also operationalizing all of this feedback we have been given, because both from the expert panel and from our regional board members, it's some clear themes of where we want to strengthen this process for next time. And that is on front end training and technical assistance, the application, the grant portal, and then the review process. So we'll start getting to work on continuing to refine and improve our process.
So looking into 2025, I think some of the things that we'll do with the regions are pretty clear. But I wanted to just say for a moment that, I think one of the things that will be different about 2025 is not only will we continue our work to be a trusted partner and a funder, but we also want to kind of turn on those other 2 pillars that you all have, really set us a course to do in our code, which is promoting health and advocating, and really sorting out what that means for us as an organization is going to be important. Partnering with all of you and getting that guidance from you is going to be critical. And really, we'll take all of this, including the you all survey, with our hope to also start to think about how do we talk with, in the next quarter, impacted Ohioans and get some feedback from them, understand what they want, continue to understand what they want, but also create a dialogue with them broader than what we have today. So that is something that we're going to be thinking about for 2025. And then I know we have a lot of big discussions that we need to have, and our chair is going to lead us through those. We have to figure out some of our really critical, important elements of the budget, of the work that we'll do together. But we will take all of these themes in mind and include it not only in what you'll see later today with our budget for 2025, our operating budget, but we will take that and consider those things forward in those future conversations as well. So please continue to give us feedback, and we will continue to seek out that feedback from across the state. So with that, I know we said a lot. Any questions about what we shared so far?
So you wanted feedback, here's your feedback. We picked an exceptional executive director, and you picked an exceptional team. And We really appreciate you.
Awesome.
And I do give credit to Larry, if he's still on, for helping us find Alicia. So thank you. The next item on the agenda I show is the Personnel Committee and our Vice Chairperson and Chairman of the Personnel Committee.
Yeah, so, just a reminder to everyone, we have a number of people who are working for us that have they don't have a framework for what they're supposed to be doing. And it has taken some time, but the Personnel Committee approved a final personnel manual. So they actually have a manual now that tells them what's allowed, what's not allowed. Then we talked about further staffing needs, and Alicia will make an announcement at some point about a new staff person to come to us. And we talked about benefits discussion, life insurance. We did approve an idea for that. We're going to have further discussion on long-term disability, and we're going to have some further discussion on retirement matches. So the Personnel Committee has been meeting, weeding through all of this stuff so that we've got framework for our personnel to work for us and create that structure that's necessary for the entity to work on. So we did.
Thank you. Any questions for our Vice Chairperson of the One Ohio? Thank you so much. They meet about what? Was it once a week or every other week?
How about once a month?
Once a month, okay.
So it's not a heavy lift if you want to join us. I'll just throw that out there.
And again, I'll make the call. All of our committees need more involvement, so thank you very much. So then the next item on the agenda is the Audit and Finance Committee report, and Evan couldn't be with us today, so let me just share with you that you've all received a copy of our 2023 990 filings. As noted in the 990 documentation, the contents reflect the monthly budget reports, and the staff will be submitting the 990 by the week's end, and also complete the nonprofit filing with the Ohio Attorney General's office. The October financial report is next. I'd like to turn that over to Jim Quinn. Thank you.
Good morning. We'll take a few moments to talk about October's activity and our cash balances at the end of October. We want to switch over to some of the highlights. So the operating budget, 2 months remaining, we have about 45% of our budget now, which means we spent 55% through October, just over $1 million. Monthly expenditures have been running right around that 90,000, give or take a little bit each month. I spend most of the time on the grant budget because we switch to the grant budget. It might be a little bit smaller. So on the grant budget, we've started to report the awards that have been announced. Those are the awards that we have grant agreements. The announcements have been on our website. We have begun the process of paying grantees. 9 or 10 grantees should have received payment today. So we're working through the confirmation process, the ACH process, and those are grantees that their awards started in November, right? These are November awardees, and then December awardees will start payments in December, and January awardees will start payments. We'll start payments in January. This report here, we will continue to show it every month through the end of these grants. So you'll continue to see the grant budget for 24, probably through 27, right? Because these grants, many of these grants are for 3 years. So this report will be updated every month, in addition to whatever other grants you award for 2025. Moving on to the cash balance report. The cash balance report shows the change in cash position during October. And one of the big changes was the Indo Public Trust bankruptcy. We received in October $7.5 million out of the blue. I see $7.5 million. Let me start like, what is that for? Where did we get 7.5? And so it's a bankruptcy very similar to the Mollenkopf, right? We expect this to be one time. We're not sure, but the word is this is a one-time bankruptcy. And so we reported that in this separate line. And in October, we earned just over 950,000 in interest on all of our accounts. One of the differences between this report and the budget report is that this is actual disbursement. So you'll see in the MOU operating 201. Well, most of that is our insurance payment of 120 that we expensed in September but paid for in October. So it's one of the differences between the budget report and the cash balance. Are there any questions, comments?
I don't. Alicia, you want to cover the 2025 budget?
Absolutely. So as you know, we still have a lot of work to do to identify how we want to move forward with our grant funding and how we want to allocate this money. I know that the investment group is meeting, the Audit and Finance Committee continues to meet, and so they will be coming back to you with those updates. For now, we would like to put forth a budget to keep the lights on and keep our vendors and our staff team moving forward. And so with that, in your package, you should have, and it may just be on onboard. It's on board only. Sorry, we couldn't get the printer to reprint that for this morning, but the budget for 2025. And what you'll see is, and if you can see it, yeah, you can see it pretty well on the screen, is all of the lines are flat except for two lines. And so we are not requesting any new or expanded operations money per se. The only two areas that the line is not flat is benefits and payroll, which we anticipate that we are right now quoting out benefits and payroll, that would increase. So we put some of that increase in the budget. I will say that we did not spend, as you've seen in this previous, what Jim just reported, we didn't spend all that we had for last year either. How we do the benefits is assume the most it could cost us, and then we let our employees make their options and selections. That typically brings that number significantly down. But just in case someone chose, everyone decided to get family membership and coverage, we included the most that it could be. The other line that increased was our banking and investment fees. This increase really is the fact that our investment committee will start to meet, has started to have conversations, and we will pick up an investment advisor for 2025, which we do not currently have. And they will be reporting out what that looks like. Based off of what we have in our accounts, we use the percentage to come up with this estimation. Again, we have not reached out to get an actual quote. This is an estimation based off of the 200+ million we have in the accounts as a percentage of that. That's the typical fees related to that. For our grant support system, there is, as you'll see here, consideration again for the growing need. We have Laura on the grant support team. I think she would like some help to manage the 200 to 300 grants that we'll have with this grant process, and we'll do some of that technical assistance, site visit work that we need to do to manage and maintain, and also lay out the evaluation process for this work. So this includes the vendors, the cost for the grants operating staff, as well as a number of other items, as you see on the line item there. And then the public education initiatives will continue. I know we talked a lot about that in previous meetings, but we will continue those efforts to gather research to figure out what's the best way to move forward with public education in 2025. Now, with all of that said, one of the key pieces of what Jim presented earlier is that we have 45% of our budget remaining from this year. So we would propose that if you all approve, I'm happy to take any questions around the budget, approve this budget we would take that, carry forward that 45% remaining to cover a good portion of what we need for 2025. And then would take an allocation, equal percentage allocation off the top of all of the NMOU settlements to cover any remaining dollars as from an allocations perspective. So kind of asking for two pieces, approval of the budget and the approval to allocate some additional dollars to cover the balance moving forward.
It'd be just the encumbered balances, right? So I just need a motion then for the 2,703,370 plus encumbered balances at the end of the year.
Radcliffe makes a motion.
By Mr. Radcliffe, second. Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second.
By Jeanette. Any discussion? Again, it'd be the 2,703,370 plus the encumbered. Go ahead, David, Judge.
We have a breakdown at some point as to the specifics of grant support system and contracted services. What makes up those amounts?
Yes, yes. And so the grant support system and contracting services, again, are two line items that were under, we did not spend all that we had. The contracted services really if you think about legal, HR,
No,
and
I know
you
what
want
they
it
are,
specific.
but I
Okay,
just like the specifics. I mean, how much
Gotcha.
are we
We'll-
paying
we
Mighty
can
Pro?
follow up with that. Yep.
Julie.
So you point out that you have not spent near close to the budget for this year, but we're using this pretty much the same numbers for next year. Do you think going into 26, we'll have a better feel for real numbers so that the budget just isn't, I think it's a bit inflated. I'm not opposed to it necessarily, but I think it's inflated. I think we would be better served to have some real numbers once we get all of our ducks in a row.
I think that's right. And I think, if you think about just staffing alone, we started this year with 3 of us.
Right.
And so, some of those things will adjust with having another year to have under our belt.
Okay.
As well.
Did I see another question? Dwayne, did you have your hand up or somebody else?
I have my hand up.
Okay,
It was
go
the
ahead,
same
John.
question that Julie just asked.
Okay, you got it. Okay. Again, I'm open to more discussion. Is there anybody I'm seeing online? I don't see anyone. All right. So we have the motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Opposed? And the motion carries then. So then I'm sorry, we have to do the motion to approve the October unaudited financial report.
Where's Vicky so moved?
Jeanette makes the motion, second by Tom. Again, the motion is to approve the October unaudited financial report, which was in the packet. Any discussion on that item? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the motion carries. Thank you. So we go to the executive committee report, and you should have received in your pack again the 2025 board meeting calendar. Again, new for next year, we'll be taking a recess in July and again in December and be making some of the meetings virtual. Our in-person meetings still should be here at the State Library of Ohio with the Zoom option available to those who it's more convenient for. And the 2025 meeting dates have been sent to our website and new calendar invites will be sent out soon. A reminder, our next meeting, if you show up here next month, you're too soon. It'll be February 12th in 2025, again at 10:30. Is there any other business to come before the board? Hearing none, is there a motion to adjourn? By Dwayne, seconded by Keith. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.